Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to be taking a look at the summer 2016 anime season. After taking a look on AniChart at all the upcoming anime this season, I found 10 that I really wanted to watch, so what I did was I went out, checked out the first episode, and I'm going to be giving you a few thoughts on them. Now, one episode isn't really enough to make a solid judgment of how good an anime is, but it should at least be enough to allow me to make a prediction of how good it might end up being. So, let's get into it. The first anime that I checked out was Real Life, and going into this, I knew I was going to love it because I'm a big fan of high school anime. I love drama, so it was a match made in heaven for me, and I went in expecting a lot, and it didn't disappoint. The story was just as interesting as the synopsis made it sound, and the characters were all extremely likeable, especially the main character Arata. I actually related to him on a fairly personal level because his transition from school to the workplace was actually fairly similar to my own transition, which was very rocky to say the least. Since all 13 episodes are available on Crunchyroll if you have a premium membership, which I do and I love it, I'm most likely going to end up finding a whole day to myself and just marathoning through the rest of this. Next up is Food Wars: A New Plate. If you love the first season of Food Wars, you'll most likely love this because it seems like it's going in the exact same direction. All the characters are back, they're just as enjoyable as they were before, and this is something that I loved about the first season, and I'm glad they're continuing this. It's still so fascinating to see all the different strategies that the cooks use to enhance the flavors in their dishes. The first episode focuses on a character named Alice who uses chemistry in order to bring out all the flavors in the ingredients she used. It was really cool, actually. On top of that, the comedy is still really funny, the visuals are beautiful, the food looks amazing, and the food eating scenes are just as stupid and over the top as they were in the first season. This was one of the few negatives I found. No food is that good that it deserves the orgasmic reaction that these characters give. The biggest problem from season 1 is also back: the predictability. There was never any tension in here. There was no point where I was getting super excited to see who was going to win because it was going to be Soma. It was always going to be Soma. He won here just like he always does. But I dealt with this in the first season and it still managed to be very enjoyable, so I'm sure I'll be able to deal with it here as well. After that, I watched the first episode of Berserk. It was something that I felt I had to do because I loved the 97 TV series, and that actually inspired me to go out and read the manga. You probably can't see this because they're just out of frame, but I got the first 30 volumes of the manga up here on my shelf. I was very cautious going in though because there was a ton of hate here even before the anime came out because people really didn't like the way the CGI looked, but I didn't want to be that guy that just jumps on the hate bandwagon because everybody else was. I wanted to go in with an open mind and form my own opinion. So I did that. And my opinion is that the art is just as shit as everybody else said it was. It looks so ugly and the animation is some of the worst I've ever seen. What you will have is you'll have a character that's completely still and they'll just have their mouth moving and it looks really, really awkward and unnatural. Oh man, it was just straight up awful. I was going to say that the story was fine because I thought it was the exact same content taken from the manga, but then I watched a video from a guy named Clyde the Weeaboo and I found out that no, they actually skipped over a bunch of shit. It's been a while since I read the manga, so I'd completely forgotten about it, and while the arc that they skipped over might not be super essential, it's still a really good arc, and it's such a pity that they just chucked it in the bin. I'm not even giving this my usual 3 episodes. This is the exact same story that I've already experienced in the manga, and it was told much better there, and that didn't have completely shitty art, so fuck this, moving on. So after that complete train wreck, I checked out 91 Days, and to the people who made Berserk, take notice. This is how you do a dark aesthetic right. The story also perfectly matches the dark visuals in here because it starts with this family just getting mowed down, and it keeps that level of intensity throughout the entire episode. From the small amount that I've watched so far, this may very well be an anime of the season candidate, so definitely one to keep an eye on. Next up, we have The Heroic Legend of Arslan Season 2, and I'll make this fairly quick because I know that quite a few of you probably haven't seen the first season. It picks up right where it left off in the middle of this epic battle, and it felt so good to get sucked back into this world again. It was one of my favourite anime of 2015, so I'm excited to see what this season brings. Also, to anybody who hasn't already, please go out and watch Season 1, especially if you're a fan of fantasy, because this is basically an anime version of Game of Thrones. It's that good. So, after that, I moved on to another fantasy anime, Tales of Zestiria The EX. I have been a massive fan of role-playing games ever since I first put in Final Fantasy VII as a teenager. It just opened my eyes to the kind of experiences that you can have playing video games, so it was only natural that at some point I would get around to playing the Tales series, and it's been very hit or miss for me. There's been quite a few of them that I loved, like Tales of Grace's F, but for every one of those, there's been Tales of the Abyss, which I can't fucking stand. So I was a bit cautious going in, but I was immediately blown away by the visuals. They looked absolutely beautiful. The soundtrack was also great, but the story got off to a really slow start. But I kind of expected that because RPGs, they like to lay a solid foundation over a couple of hours before they start ramping up the drama. However, the drama got going a lot quicker than I expected it to. Halfway through is where everything starts going down, and it actually gets pretty dark at points. It was so much better than the first half. I came in with fairly low expectations, and they've already been met and then some, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what future episodes have in store. Next up is Handa-kun, and while I'm not the biggest fan of comedies, all I had to read was prequel to Barakamon, and I was in. Barakamon managed to be extremely touching for me and very funny at the same time, so I was expecting the same level of quality for this, and man, it's been a while since an anime killed my enthusiasm this quickly. The first 10 minutes was just this horrible breaking the fourth wall conversation between these four fucking dorks who were really excited to see the first episode of Hondakun. Oh, it was torture. The rest of the episode wasn't much better either. It's been a while since I've watched Barakamon, but I don't remember Handa being a complete idiot, and everybody else around him was also stupid and dumb. I'm going to give this till episode 3 like I usually do, just in case it gets better. Like, it won't. It definitely won't. It would be just as shit in episode 3 as it was here. But in the interest of fairness, I'll keep watching. So, to purge all that anger and disappointment from my body, I decided to check out Days next. Now, this was going to be something that was a very safe bet. I'm a big fan of sports anime. It's probably my favourite genre out there, and I also really like Night in the Area, so it was a pretty safe bet that I was going to love this as well, but from reading the synopsis, it also seemed like this might end up being a bit cliche. And my doubts were proven to be correct because the story is really stock. It has this one high school student who's never played soccer before, but in his first game, he absolutely falls in love with it and wants to play more. Also, I'm sure of this, I'd put money on it if I could. At some point it's going to be revealed that the main character is some kind of underground soccer genius that just has this untapped potential, and he picks up the game really quickly and becomes one of the best players on the team. Seriously, I'm sure it's gonna happen. However, even with all that genericness, I still had a ton of fun. I connected with the characters really quickly, and I do genuinely want to see what happens next. So now we come to the final anime that I checked out, Taboo Tattoo. I've never been a fan of action anime. It's one of my least favourite genres. It's most likely even lower than comedy for me, and on top of that, this has one of the stupidest names for an anime I've ever heard. It sounds like a 13-year-old came up with it. It's like, hey, tattoos are cool. Taboo Tattoo, it rhymes. Isn't that awesome? No, it's not awesome. It's fucking dumb. But despite all of that, there was something about this premise that drew me in. And from the second I pressed play, the episode refused to let me go. The pacing, holy crap, it was so fast. It was constantly changing scenes. It never took a break. There was just so much stuff happening. And it was amazing. Since I don't watch action too often, it's been a while since something got my blood pumping so much. It was great, and I will say that I could very much see myself getting burnt out on this. You know, it could just be that the pacing remains so fast and I get left behind, but I hope this doesn't happen. I hope this remains a thrill ride all the way to the end. Now, some of you might be saying, hold up, that's only 9 anime. I thought there were 10 that you were really interested in. And there is, because I'm also very interested in checking out Battery. Now, this is another sports anime. I love sports anime, so I'm sure I'm going to adore this. I can't say for certain though, because the first episode isn't out yet. If I was to make a judgment based on the synopsis and the poster alone, it seems like a show that I would end up enjoying even more than I enjoyed Days, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. So to wrap things up, I'll say something that I never thought I'd say, because last season was so incredibly good. There were so many good shows, but this season may end up topping it for me. I know that's an extremely bold statement, but there were so many hits in here. I wasn't expecting to like as many anime as I did, so I think at the very least I can say that we're in for yet another high quality season of anime. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave a comment, and if you like this video and want to see more, feel free to subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.